The theme for tonight's session at the Republican convention is Land of Heroes, with a heavy emphasis on the military and law enforcement. Joining us tonight, a decorated combat Green Beret, Congressman from Florida, Michael Waltz. Congressman, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Brett.
You just heard Mayor Pete Buttigieg, his comments on a number of different things, including foreign policy. Your reaction?
Well, I thought his comments, particularly on the violence that's going on around America, was incredibly disappointing. You know, that's what's wrong with politicians today. They're just seeking to blame this president or blame someone else. I wonder if he blamed Obama and Biden when Ferguson was on fire, when Baltimore was overtaken with riots years ago under the Obama-Biden administration. And what we didn't hear from him was a full-throated support for the 99.9% of our men and women in blue who strap on that badge every day and get between our communities and the bad guys to keep us safe. Of course, we want to root out bad police officers. Any administration and any president does. But we're not hearing that support from folks like Mayor Pete or Joe Biden or anyone else. And they need to hear from their elected officials that we have their back as they go out in harm's way.
You said it's going down a rabbit hole, but I want to ask you about it, too, about the use of the White House and the use of the Secretary of State in Jerusalem giving a speech. Here is Congressman Joaquin Castro today talking about this.
Our concern is that Secretary Pompeo has once again politicized the State Department. This is a State Department whose morale is at an all-time low. From what I'm hearing, it's quite possible that the reason he went was to make that political speech and used official government resources to get there.
They say there was no resources used for the taping of that message, and he did not attack Joe Biden. But your reaction?
You know, this is, I think it's a bit ridiculous. It's a distraction tactic. You know, at the end of the day, every president has used Air Force One, they have a unique carve out in the Hatch Act. And what the Democrats really don't want to be talking about is the actual policies and the everyday Americans that are talking about how those policies have changed their lives, from economic opportunity zones to reform of the VA to tax reform, funding the military, the judges that are going in place. Those are the things we've heard during the Republican National Convention that we did not hear anything about during the DNC last week. And so this is a distraction tactic, and they know it.
Mayor Pete, others have said that Joe Biden has the right foreign policy vision. Last week, Senator Tammy Duckworth said this about Donald Trump's foreign policy.
Unlike Trump, Joe Biden has common decency. He has common sense. He can command, both from experience and from strength. Donald Trump doesn't deserve to call himself commander-in-chief for another 4 minutes, let alone another 4 years.
On specifics, how do you fight back against the Biden campaign on the issue of foreign policy?
Well, you just look at what he didn't get done over, his nearly 50 years, including 8 years as vice president. I mean, let's just walk around the world very quickly under Biden and Obama. You had Syria in total chaos with genocide. You had the rise of ISIS with a premature pullout of Iraq. You had Russia on the march in Crimea in Ukraine. You had China on the march in the South China Sea. They basically gave a shoulder shrug to North Koreans' nukes and embraced socialism in Cuba and Venezuela. We cannot afford a weak leader in Joe Biden. We need the strength of Donald Trump. And I'll tell you who does respect him right now. I'll tell you, ISIS respects him with al-Baghdadi dead. Iran respects him when we backed out of the Iran deal and took out their general in Soleimani. And I can keep going. Our adversaries are who respect our military right now that is fully equipped, has what it needs. And, you know, Brett, I was downrange under Obama and Biden when they essentially tied our hands with restrictive rules of engagement. We can't go backwards. And finally, what you're also not hearing Mayor Pete or anybody else talk about is the existential threat to this country that China is. You know, you have a situation where just this week, Vice President Biden was quoting Mao, is saying that the rise of China is a peaceful thing. His son, Hunter, is a business partner in the Central Bank of China. I don't think the American people can trust a commander-in-chief with those kind of conflicts and that kind of view. Meanwhile, you have President Trump putting sanctions in place for Hong Kong, taking action because of their genocide of the Uyghurs. The Chinese today just launched 2 carrier-killing missiles, because we are in the South China Sea, where a third of the world's shipping transits. At the end of the day, we have to be strong against this threat, and we cannot afford to go backwards with a repeat of what Biden did or didn't get done over the last 50 years.
And I'm sure we're going to hear a lot about that tonight. One last thing, that is the criticism from the Biden camp and Democrats, some of the media, saying that this RNC is an alternate reality and that there's not a lot of focus on COVID-19, despite the beginning on the first night, a lot of laying out what the administration has done. But they point to Larry Kudlow talking in past tense about COVID-19. You know it very well from Florida and the numbers that you're seeing on the ground there.
Yeah, look, I think the president is giving the governors and local officials the resources they need to deal with this at a local level. It is very different in downtown Miami than it is Wyoming or Montana. But again, this is a distraction. What we cannot have, Brett, what I didn't fight all over the world for is a future of where America is led by democratic socialists or the world is led by Chinese communists. And those are the two key questions that Americans have to ask themselves as they go to the polls on November 3rd.
Congressman Michael Waltz, we appreciate your time and thanks for your service to the country.
All right. Thanks, Brett.